Simon Miller from WhatCulture here, be with my YouTube brother, Brian Zane, Wrestling with Wregret. How are we doing today?
Well, thank you for that lovely introduction. Yes, I'm doing great, man. Surprisingly, I got a good night's sleep last night. I can't believe it, but I'm just so happy to be here. WrestleCon is one of my favorite things to do of the year, WrestleMania weekend. It's my Christmas. I've missed it the last 2 years. And it's just great to be back and reconnecting with folks like you, because I know you interviewed me a couple of years ago in New York, and I guess that interview never got off the ground, never made air.
Well, no, so what happened is, this happened with a lot of people. We got home and all the audio was not only broken for that, but was also broken for a SmackDown ups and downs we had done. And we had to do this really crappy apology from our hotel room. Like, yeah, you ain't getting any of that.
No, it's the worst when technology fails you. But no, I'm just happy you're here. I was surprised to see the WhatCulture lads here. And we just saw Wrestling Since, Christian Miracle walk by. So it's like all the stars are out deep in the heart of Texas. You love to see it.
It's true. And as I can talk about this with you far more specifically, how do you find wrestling YouTube these days? Because I think it's gone through quite the change the last 24 months, especially with the nonsense that that did go down.
Yeah.
And it's odd because it's always evolving. Like, maybe back 2016, 17 was the big boom. Yeah. Then it kind of settled down. And now I kind of find you get it in peaks and troughs. But I was wondering how it is for you.
I am so woefully ignorant to how YouTube works anymore that
no one knows.
It's just like, you know what? If I just keep making videos, I'm going to keep, getting views and making ad revenue. That's the mode I'm in right now. So it's like, I feel that, but wrestling YouTube has changed a lot since I started, since WhatCulture blew up. It's like, I don't know if we're in the third or fourth wave of wrestling YouTube now. I was probably first or second, I think.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, so but there's all these new channels cropping up, so many of which I have not seen yet that I want to catch up on, because there's all these really different, interesting talents, new perspectives coming out. And it's just, I think wrestling YouTube is in a good place right now, I guess is my uneducated opinion on it, I guess. But I'm doing okay, and I know a lot of other channels are as well. The pandemic was a gift and a curse for a lot of people.
Yeah, I tell you, man.
Views went up, but obviously no one could go to the shows anymore. We had to kind of find new ways to make content and evolve, like you said. So everything's a work in progress. But I'm really happy where the channel is right now.
Do you find, in terms of creativity and the amount of your stuff you're able to put on your channel, that it's quite old news now, but for us it's still relatively new, the birth and the rise of AEW helped a lot? Because I know that on our side it was like, oh man, we have a whole new sort of creative toys to now play with. It doesn't just have to be WWE, and I'm sure it was the same for you. That's what the audience wanted. Yeah. Some people in the comments pretended it wasn't, but that's what the audience wanted. But then AEW came along, and regardless whether you liked it or you didn't like it, all of a sudden, new cast of characters, new people to talk about, new storylines, and I know on our end, certainly, creativity was able to increase a bit.
And I know that if you liked it or you didn't like it, I just please beg of you not to be a dick, That's what really generated this whole thing. AEW was good for us because it gave us something else to talk about. It did unfortunately, it kind of helped foster the us versus them, this holy war mentality that a lot of fans, unfortunately, find themselves in. And I think we should all just kind of be happy that wrestling was still able to function and go during the pandemic. There was a time when the pandemic was first happening. We thought, oh my God, is WWE going to take a break? Like, what's going to happen with AEW? And the fact they were still able to keep going, sometimes in spite of itself. Wrestling powered through, and I think that's the fact that wrestling powered through, wrestling YouTubers powered through, for all intents and purposes, the industry was still chugging along. It was kind of surprising how that happened, and now it's the rest of the world's catching up. Things are opening up again. We're here, and I think that's proof that that wrestling is alive and well. People are running 2-night shows again, so clearly, it's a vibrant scene. So I think AEW helped with that, and then AEW then kind of begat other. He basically gave people the freedom to talk about kind of whatever they wanted in wrestling. And that's, I think, what's great about it is there's so much out there in wrestling now that you could talk about literally anything, and there's going to be some section of your fan base that's going to be interested and really want to hear about it. Yeah.
I think it's spot on. I also think, look at something like GCW, right? I think people saw AEW, and if you weren't taking this us versus them side, you're like, oh wow, there's this whole new wrestling world out there. I'm going to jump into this. Maybe I'll go watch some Impact now. We obviously saw the boom in New Japan. It's kind of died down a little bit, but it was still there. And it all kind of ties into this sort of new company that was born in 2019.
Yeah, no, it's crazy, the dominoes that had to fall to get AEW in the first place. And I think I think wrestling's better off for it. Like, I think there have been some unfortunate casualties with AEW thriving as it has, unfortunately. But I mean, that's just kind of the nature of wrestling. And all I really care about now is just to make sure that as many people are employed and making money and careers off wrestling as possible. Like, I mean, I wish that for everybody, pretty much. And I think the more companies are out there, the more chances there are out there. I mean, I'm sure you guys have heard this and seen this and said this, more places means more opportunities to work, more opportunities to get seen. Twitter, the pandemic really helped the Twitter wrestlers out, because a lot of those wrestlers like Danhausen and Warhorse and RJ City and folks like that, like, they prove that you can be marketable and you can get bookings really without ever being seen as a wrestler. It's so character based. It really always has been. I think the best wrestling has always been more characters than just like the wrestling. Characters and storylines are it, and I think that like social media, if you've got a good grind, you've got a good idea and a vision, then like whether it's YouTube or whether it's Twitter or whatever, you can get it out there and you can find your groove, find your niche in wrestling. And like, one thing that my career has taught me more than anything is that no path in wrestling is the same for anyone. There's no two similar paths. And so I think however you can get it, if it works and if there's an audience for it, if people are digging it, then you're doing something right.
The best thing I ever heard was you're over if people make a noise and people care about you. Even if that is just you get a lot of retweets, it still counts because you're engaging that audience and they're giving it back to you, and that always leads to good opportunities. I mean, both Danhausen and Warhorse obviously made it through AEW at some point. You referenced a t-shirt earlier, don't be a dick. We have to talk about trolls. We shouldn't, but you're only one of the few people here that will actually get it. I mean, you said it best before we started the record button. You never meet an asshole in person. Yeah. They frequent the comment section, and there are a lot on Twitter, but it does, a lot of the time, just seem to be angry people screaming into the void.
Yeah, and I think the real important thing is, like, this right here reminds me that a lot of the negativity is just, like, that's a story we tell ourselves, that, like, we try to, like, for all the positive comments that we get, from fans, there's always going to be one out of every 10 that, like, that ruins it for you and it stays with you. But, like, shows like this and events like this and, getting seen by other fans who are, like, appreciative of your work, whether it's me or you or anyone, like, the fact that, like, they come out and tell us this, like, that's what it's all about. That's something that I still, like, struggle with kind of how to take that, because it's so humbling and rewarding to hear that from fans, but I don't know how to respond. I'm like, you're welcome, and also thank you, because like it's something that I didn't really expect as kind of like a side effect of the channel. Like when people say that my channel has inspired them or like it got them back into wrestling, it's like this was originally just a way for me to pop myself and my wrestling friends. Yeah. And like now it's like it's this whole thing, it's this whole world. And yeah, that's what it's really about. So the trolls, it's easy for us to kind of like dwell on the shitty comments and everything. But at the end of the day, it's like the people who like us and the people who are fans of us or whoever, that's what makes it all kind of keep going. It motivates me to keep going for sure.
Oh yeah. Beautiful words. Brian Zane, Wrestling with Regret. Hopefully this one will go up. If it doesn't, well, you're allowed to be really mad. You're allowed to come troll us.
I will send you some fiery tweets. That will be.
Call me a bald a-hole. Say you don't know what you're doing. You're way too positive,
I'll be the one smacking your head if you're not careful.
Although, actually, I tell you what we do have a bond over. We are positive wrestling guys. And there are some people that do our job. They ain't positive, man. They're really, really angry. You know who we're talking about. He's going to know now. But I appreciate the fact you always look on the bright side of life.
I try to, man. Like, that's all you can do, especially the last couple of years to taught us anything. It's that you got to keep moving forward and just kind of keep looking toward like something better in the future. There's got to be something there, even in the darkest times. Like, and it gets me too. There's times where I feel miserable and like I just like like I wouldn't mind just stopping, just like but whatever. Then I kind of like get that second wind or something kind of keeps me going. And totally. I think this has been getting the chance to be on YouTube and speak my mind on stuff. It's been very cathartic and therapeutic for me many times. I know it feels that way for a lot of the viewers. So that's why I keep doing it, man. I do it for the content, but I also do it for the fans.
There you go. Brian Zane, lovely human being. Like, share, subscribe. Check out Wrestling with Regret. Goodbye.